Yes.
Wow. You have a record crowd here.
Joe, hello everybody. Welcome to a workshop with Joe DeChara and
The Bedrock team.
the Bedrock team. That's true. I've got everybody beeping in. That's why I was like, I hear little dings as everybody's coming in and everybody's getting settled, which is very exciting. If you want to turn on your camera, you're more than welcome to. If you don't want to turn on your camera, you don't have to. As we are learning and doing things, I highly recommend that you ask questions. We're always asking questions of each other. We're making it so we understand the things that we're learning and we're talking about. You can write the questions in the chat. After the presentation, we'll have games. We call it Jeopardy. It's like Jeopardy, but it's not Jeopardy, it's Jeopardy. And during that time, you can, of course, ask more questions. You can shout out answers. You can unmute yourself. We really like to get to know one another, and we're all glad that you're here. Now, my name is Elizabeth Frederick. I work with Joe DeChara. I am the Chief Fun Officer of Bedrock Business Builders. I do other things as well, but you know, I really like fun out of our core values, so that's what I focus on. And I hope that you're all here to have a little fun with us, even though it is accounting and finance. People often think that that's not going to be fun. However, I know that it is. Our numbers are very, very important, and how we treat them is what makes us money or doesn't make us money. We have over 30 people in the room at the moment, which is very exciting.
So why don't we have people introduce themselves in the chat? Tell us, ask questions, number one. Number two, share your links, because after the workshop, after the training, that meeting chat can become a real resource for you. And I'll just leave it at that.
That is true, Joe. If everybody puts their contact information in the chat, it does become like this huge networking opportunity for you. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. I'll put Joe's contact information in the chat, and everybody can start doing that. Now, there is that ... next to the chat, and that makes it so you can save it. And when you save it, it goes into a Zoom folder. I'm also going to remind you that we have reactions. So if you don't have your camera on, but you really like something or you love something, you can give us a heart. If you think it's funny, you can cry a little because it's so funny. If you want to celebrate something, celebrate. Those are at the bottom right there. Also, to raise your hand and to ask questions, if you want to do that, you go into the reactions and you can raise your hand, and then I'll put you right at the top of the screen. We'll see who you are and you can ask your question. I don't recommend that during the presentation. More if it's gonna be a question, it can be in the chat, and then during Jeopardy we can do that. I'm still admitting everybody, Joe. It keeps dinging. It's very it's kind of distracting.
Well, that's a good thing. Let them in.
Yeah, I'm letting them
Also,
in. I'm letting them in.
what I'm doing here is I'm sharing some important documents. You don't have to open them now. I just want to share them so that you could download them and maybe, have access to them later. It might be a little bit shocking. This is something new, at least new to us. And that's it. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
So as I'm doing things, if there's an echo or if you hear something that we shouldn't be hearing, I'm gonna mute you. At the moment, you do have the ability to unmute yourself. I did not lock down the room that way. And again, you can always turn on your cameras. Susan is in the room. Woohoo! Hello, Susan.
Good morning, everybody.
our relationship coach. She tells us how to get what we want, which is a good thing. She's also works within Bedrock Business Builders. She helps us make it so we're all getting along, I think, and more than that.
Yes, she's my go-to person when it comes to people annoying me. And we do have some people that I'd like to give a shout out to, and maybe give them 30 seconds to introduce themselves. Starting with Marianne, she is here. I hate to put you on the spot, Marianne, but I just did. So you're responsible for inviting a lot of people here from your group. I appreciate that. We all appreciate that.
Hi.
Okay, you're echoing. Why is that, Elizabeth?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I have opened my other Zoom, other laptop. Anyway, good morning and good afternoon, guys. Thank you, Joe, for this webinar, and shout out to my accounting people team here in the Philippines. They're still alive and kicking.
Yeah, I figure people usually show up late. I always said we should start 10 minutes early, so then everybody's actually on time. But, and only because we got so much to share, and there's only so much time. There you are. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
good
so
morning,
thank
good
you so
afternoon.
much for sharing the links, not only for this, but for the upcoming training we're doing for your group. And thank you. Go ahead, Elizabeth, you could take over. I'm done interrupting.
Well, I don't know why you're done interrupting, Joe, because really you're the one who's going to do the training here today, right? You have to share your screen. You got to make it so we can see the presentation. Joe has a ton of things to teach us. I hope that he teaches me a lot of things because that's why we started working together. I have to admit, I asked Joe a ton of questions and he was always really good at answering them. Oh, even the dog's excited. I thank you for that howl in. So, uh, one of the things about finance, about accounting, about bookkeeping, about the IRS, and about international business, because I know we have a lot of people here that are from the Philippines and in other countries, is that there are lots of rules. They're always changing. We have to be precise what we're doing. And bookkeeping, accounting, all that stuff, really, we create a firm foundation for business owners and for individuals to make it so they can get the most out of their money. They can get the most out of what they're doing and they can stay organized. Because one of the things that I like to remind people of is to spend their time on their highest level, their highest gaining, their highest value activity, right? And you have no idea what your highest value activity is unless you're paying attention to your books and records and to how you are organizing yourself and where you're spending your time and where you're spending your money. All of that matters not only for your business, but it also matters to the IRS. And or if you're not in the United States, it doesn't necessarily matter to the IRS, but I think it does, Joe. We're going to talk about how the IRS has an interest in funds that go abroad and overseas because why not? They seem to have an interest in everything. Uh, what else are we going to talk about, Joe? We're going to
Well,
talk about, there we go.
we have a lot of people that aren't directly affected by the crazy, complicated rules and laws of not only the United States, but of the state and local governments, which we're not even going to have time to go into. I could just touch on the state and local governments, what's going on with that. But we have, like I said, a bunch of Marianne's group that I believe want to learn so that they can share their knowledge with US based companies. And also, let me point out that one of our friends mentioned to me that there's a lot of people that aren't in the United States. They're what we call expatriates, right, Elizabeth? Is that the word? But they still have businesses in the United States. So there's a whole worldwide need for accountants and bookkeepers. So I don't want to skip ahead. I just want to mention that somebody did say they have a question already. What I'm going to do, and that's Lisa Basco. So you can post your question in there, but what we're going to do with Elizabeth's help and possibly Susan, if you notice anything, Susan's got a lot of experience. She's what did we call her, Elizabeth? Seasoned. She's a seasoned entrepreneur. And Susan, why don't you introduce yourself? I'd like everybody to get to know you, and maybe they might have a need for you at some point.
Okay. My name is Susan Shepard. I have a little company called Getting What You Want. I am a life and relationship coach currently. I have had 12 businesses, and I'm a registered nurse. I worked in the emergency department for 40 years not before I did all those businesses, because a lot of them I did simultaneously. I always was doing more than one thing at a time. What I do currently primarily is I work with single people who want a serious relationship, who've had serial bad relationships with the same person in different bodies. And I help them to become who they need to be in order to attract what it is and who they really want. So that's pretty much who I am and what I do.
All right, awesome.
I write books, I'm a speaker, I coach people, and I'm semi-retired.
So also, not only is Susan my go-to relationship person, whenever I have something like a cut or a bruise or I'm not feeling well, I call Susan because she's a world-class nurse. I trust Susan more than I trust my doctor.
The one thing I did not mention that I did do is I worked with Michael Gerber. If any of you know who Michael Gerber is, he's the business development specialist who wrote the E-Myth books. And I worked for him directly for 3 years right after I got my business degree. So I learned a lot about organizing and structuring and creating systems for small businesses. So
yes. So thank you for mentioning that, because the E-Myth is a book that I highly recommend everybody read, because if you're going to deal with the small business owner, not only in the United States, I believe it doesn't matter where you are. You can be in Kenya and you're still going to go through the same kind of insanity that small business owners get. And it's sort of like it's a shock. It's a real shock when you realize that you could be a great cook, but there's more to running a restaurant than just cooking. Okay, you could be a great baker, but just like what was her name? Sarah, Susan? Sarah knew how to bake, but she
Right.
didn't know how to run a bakery. And
Well,
that's what the
basically,
book is about.
what Michael used to say all the time, Michael Gerber, is people start a business doing what they know how to do. What they don't know how to do is how to run a business.
And right, and that's what we do. We, from the foundation of Bedrock, really starts with the bookkeeping, but we do a whole lot more than that, because as we're doing a client's books, we get to know them, they get to know us, we ask a lot of questions, and one of the things, and I'm going to address the question that Lisa asked me, because I was just telling Elizabeth that the most prevalent question that business owners ask their accountants is, what can I deduct? So her question is it legal to deduct things like auto and gas? Now I lost you. Okay. So client is a sole prop, and is it legal to deduct gas, car repairs for, and then you dropped off. It looks like
There's another post there.
okay, client, even though they are not using my, okay, so the answer is it's easier to tell you what's not deductible. Okay, anything that is business related, if it's ordinary and necessary, it's deductible. Now, last month I did a whole thing and I brought up some very strange tax deductions that the IRS did not like. They disallowed them. And the individuals went to court. They sued the IRS in federal tax court, and the tax court agreed with them. Things such as buying cat food and veterinarian bills for a junkyard, because the owner said that the cats kept the rats and the snakes away from the junkyard. So that was necessary if they wanted clients to come into the shop. One gentleman got to deduct his pool because his doctor, now that wasn't a business expense, that was a medical expense. But the bottom line is, when it comes to what can you deduct, and we're not really going to cover that here today, there's just not enough time. You can't deduct anything that's personal in nature. So if you're going on a vacation with your family, that's personal. You can't deduct it. But if you go on a vacation where there's a seminar related to your business, you can definitely allocate your cost of the trip, because you're going there for business. Your family isn't, unless you've hired your family and they're helping you run your business. So there's not one straight answer on that. But the bottom line is, if it's business, they got to document, and that's what we're going to be talking about now, documenting how to protect yourself from the IRS, because unfortunately, the IRS, and again, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the IRS is out of control. It's the reason why we've done a complete 180 with, what I started Bedrock for. Now it's more about compliance and protecting our clients, mostly not from the IRS, but protecting our clients from themselves. Because just like Sarah in the E-Myth, actually it's the E-Myth Revisited. I don't know if there's an E-Myth, but for some reason the Revisited came out. I was always looking for the E-Myth. Maybe
The first book was the E-Myth, and that's when I worked for him.
Okay, so I guess that didn't go over so well, so he did the E-Myth Revisited.
No, he's done about 40 versions.
Oh yeah, now he's got the E-Myth for dentists, the E-Myth for everything, because that's a whole nother story. But anyway, I think I've chatted long enough. Also, I want to give a shout out to our team. I'm not sure exactly which. I know I saw Carmela sneak in. Carmela is supposed to be working right now, and I saw, but actually I invited the whole accounting department, because this is important. This isn't only important for individuals, but it's important for our team to know this stuff. A lot of this stuff we don't cover in our meetings, because it just hasn't been part of the training program. But this is of utmost importance if you want to do business in the United States. So Elizabeth, do you have anything else to add before I start sharing my screen?
Joe, I don't have anything else to add. All I know is that it's 1:18. We got to get this show on the road, and you need to start sharing your screen. And if
Yes.
you don't know who Joe is, I'm sure he's going to give you a little intro in his thing, in his screen, about who we are. Oh, that's the whole team Bedrock, minus someone who we just hired. So that's exciting. There's
Yes.
Joe, Susan, myself, Corrine. Corrine is she does a ton of different things with our onboarding and making sure everybody is where they are supposed to be and keeping us on track with proposals and such like that. Then there's Linda, she's our web developer. We've got Thesha, she's crossing our I's, dotting our T's. She's almost like the auditor within the group. Luz is the taskmaster. Thank you for being here. I think she's also in the room. She heads our accounting department. Janine makes it so we all look like superstars on social media. If you ever see the stuff that Bedrock does on social media, she's the one who's doing that. And Carmela is chill. Now, Joe talked about how she is also in here because we invited the whole accounting department. She can take some very complex problems and still make it so they are reconciled, they are taken care of. If there is mistakes that are made, she still makes it so they are fixed. So that we all have unique superpowers and abilities, and I think that's the benefit of having a team. As you yourself and other business owners, they grow out their business, they will also want to have a team. And I think that's also covered in the E-Myth. I put that link in the chat. As we're doing things, Joe already started with some links that he shared, and we'll continue to add links. We'll have prizes and different things that will benefit you all throughout this workshop. And let's get the show on the road, Joe. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. So let's talk about who this is for and who this is not for. There's not many people this isn't for. Because the truth is, I mean, if you're doing business, if you're in business, and even if you're not in business, the IRS and some of the other government agencies have a far reach, and they affect our daily lives, unfortunately. And specifically who this is for is, number one, if you're a business owner, you need to know this stuff. If you're serving a business owner, you need to know this stuff. You know, we used to do a lot of, we had a woman in our mastermind group, Sherilyn, she was an expert on the art of war. And one of the things about the art of war is to know your enemy. So I'm going to pull the curtain back on, you know, and there, I know Elizabeth hates, doesn't like when I talk in those terms, but they're a friendly enemy. Okay, we learn how to work with them. So that's who this is for. What you're going to leave with, hopefully, is some real eye-opening information that's going to, you know, arm you going forward. Now, some of the things you might not like, because there's a lot of changes going on. And one thing I've learned is people do not really like change. And there's a lot of business owners that are given, you know, I feel the pushback. I feel the pushback because now, you know, stuff they've been doing for 30, 40 years, you know, they're saying, well, why didn't I never had to do this before? Well, when you're done with this workshop, you're going to know why you have to do this. Now, why you should stay, besides the fact that Elizabeth likes to play games and give away prizes, I'm gonna try to teach you everything that I know in a short period on this topic. I can't teach. I don't know anything about relationships. Susan and my team can attest to that. In fact, I found out that Susan and my team were meeting secretly so that they could get what they wanted from me. And it's working. And you know, so little by little, you know, I have less responsibilities because other people took them from me. And that's part of being on a team, you know, and I can't stress enough how important it is to surround yourself with like-minded people and people that know more than you. And, you know, people like Carmela knows more about QuickBooks than I ever want to know. You know, Corrine is a master at what she does with the manuals, and you know, Susan knows about scaling a business. These are some of the reasons why you should stay, because I'm going to sprinkle a lot of that information in here. Also, you're going to walk away with real actionable information that you could use either in your business or in working with your clients. Another reason why you could stay, and I've hinted at this, I'm going to give you the secret weapon that always works 1000% of the time if you're in a jam with the IRS. Okay, so I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. Now imagine you're owning a business and being virtually stress-free, and that's actually not possible. That's not possible. But imagine being stress-free when it comes to dealing with the IRS. and the government agencies. You know, a lot of people, stress is not good. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your mind, and it's definitely not good for your business. And knowing the truth will give you a chance at that financial freedom that everybody craves. Now, financial freedom does not mean that you're going to have billions of dollars, because, you know, we talked about this in our mastermind, that having billions of dollars comes with a lot of responsibility. So what we try to do is teach, you know, financial freedom is really having the freedom to live your life the way you want to live, not having to worry about where the next dollar is coming from. And then you can, you know, the bottom line is I tell people, and this is why we have a chief fund officer, I didn't go into business to be miserable. And I've met a lot of people that were rich in money terms. They had a lot of money, but they were not happy. So just imagine being happy, having all the money that you need to have a happy, joyous life. And that's what, if you follow our principles, we guarantee you that you will have a new sense of that freedom. And we are here to serve you, whether you're learning how to start your own accounting business, if you are trying to, you know, launch your business, if you've already launched 12 or more businesses. And Susan, I thought you were on number 13, but I guess we'll have to talk about that. But in the end, that's what we're here for. I was telling Elizabeth before we opened the meeting that I've been having, you know, a lot of epiphanies lately. And it comes, you know, the accounting, the bookkeeping, all the stuff that we do is important. But in the end, if we're not serving our clients, we're not doing our job. We could be the best accountants in the world, but if we're not on the same page with our clients, in other words, if they have no idea what we're doing or why, it really doesn't matter, because then we have no relationship. And that's what we crave. We like to have relationships with our clients. We don't want to just take their information and bang out a tax return. That would make us a commodity. Okay, and I don't want to be a commodity. I don't know if you do, but I don't. So who am I? How am I? Why am I qualified to teach you this stuff? Well, I'm going to show you some of the things that I've done that I like to do. I love helping people. I love teaching. I love guiding people. But I could tell you, let me show you some of the things that I've done in my career. I've had the opportunity to work with thousands, literally thousands of small business owners. Okay, from the bottom up, from starting their business to going out of business. I've been doing this over 35 years, almost as long as Susan was a nurse. So I've been doing it a long time. And most of the time that was, you know, basically helping my client. Without realizing it, I was helping them create what we call books and records. Now, if anybody's had the unpleasant experience of getting audited by the IRS, they send you a letter and they say, we want to see your books and records. And all of a sudden, the business owner says, I've been seeing that the whole time I'm in business, but I never actually knew what that was. Well, they're gonna find out shortly, because that's what we're doing. We're going to teach people what books and records are, why they're important, and how they help you stay in compliance. That's what I've been doing. Again, I'm going to try to find another word for war, because Elizabeth is helping me learn how to sugarcoat things, right? So
If
I've
you
let's.
showed it with if you
How
coated with
about
sugar,
battle?
Joe.
Is battle better? Battle's better than war.
How about going to the mat?
Okay, so we're going to change this now. I've gone to the mat for my clients against not only the IRS, banks, insurance companies, and anyone else making my client's life difficult, because I like solving problems, and business is, one problem after another. My goal today is to help you identify the real issues, like we would just ask the question about what can I deduct? Not that that's not important, but that's not really an issue. If you just, that's a question that we can easily, cast aside, that people spend too much time and effort worrying about. Okay, another one of Elizabeth mentioned superpowers. One of my superpowers is to make things simple for people. And again, we want to take away your stress and anxiety. Like I said, I could be the greatest accountant in the world, but if I'm not putting you at ease with what you have to do, if you want to be a successful business owner, okay, that's what I want to do today. I want to help take away some of your stress. Now, here's the real problem. The problem isn't the IRS, the banks, the insurance companies, all these people that are asking you for information. The problem is that it's too complicated. It's way too complicated. Even for an experienced accountant like me, I have no problem telling you that I don't know everything about taxes. I'm in a bunch of groups, and there are people with more experience and a lot smarter than I am. And they are, like asking for a life preserver, saying, what is going on here? They're passing all these laws. I can't keep up with it. It is really, it's difficult. It was always hard to start a business and be successful. And I know from driving my ice cream truck, okay, it was one of the best businesses I ever had. It hasn't changed in all these years. Sometimes I think about going back into selling ice cream. But even that, I got into trouble. I got into trouble without knowing it. I signed a form that required me to file a sales tax return. And 6 months into my career as a CPA, I got a notice from New York State with a big red stamp on it. It said tax warrant. Okay, and I spent 3 days and nights wondering what I had done wrong, because I had no idea. Even though I was working at a CPA firm, I was embarrassed to ask them. I thought I might have been like suspected of money laundering, tax fraud, but the things that went through my mind, that stuck with me my whole career. And I think subconsciously that, made me want to help my clients because I could empathize with them. So let me ask you something. How many times have you been frustrated with the IRS? How hard is it for you to get ahead, whether you're in business or helping businesses? And do you feel like you deserve some simple, affordable guidance? Because that's what we provide. Simple, affordable guidance, not just tax preparation and bookkeeping. That's what we do. But in the end, we want our clients to be more knowledgeable than when they started with us. If you know who Steve Forbes is, he's got a financial empire. He, owns a magazine called Forbes. A lot of people look up to him. And recently he called it the regulatory state. And I'll explain what that means. There's way too much to cover. There's a lot of tax law changes. One thing I'm going to stress is there's a reason why the IRS is in the process of hiring over 80,000 agents. Now, these agents are specifically going to be auditing businesses and collecting from businesses. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about that are issues have sort of been swept under the rug because the simple fact is the IRS just didn't have enough people to police what the rules are. A lot of these rules have been around since before I even started. Okay, the independent contractor rules, the employee versus independent contractor rule. When I say independent contractor, you could just think of all the 1099 and W-9 forms that are going on now. You could think about Venmo and the fact that this year, 2022, they're going to start issuing 1099s to people. Well, the reason is that now the IRS has technology behind them. They never had that before. They've been linking different government agencies. So now they have the information, and now they're going to have an army of people to come after us. So I want us to be prepared. And you can't hide anymore. People spent a long time flying under the radar, and that's just not the way to do business anymore. Also, I'm going to remind you, not only am I going to share my insider secrets, but I think Elizabeth has some special treats for us at the end. If she doesn't, she's going to make them up before we're done here. Is that right, Elizabeth?
Joe, I'm already sharing free gifts in the chat. This is where it's important to pay attention to what's going on. I like to take notes and share different things. I'm also, as Joe talks about things like 1099s or W-2s or different forms and things like that, I will also share those links in there so you can follow up with it afterwards, because we say something, right? But then the IRS has a whole bunch of other information about it. And I think that's where it's important to connect the two, because it's not like we're just making it up as we go along. I, of course, am making up gifts and prizes and all the different things that we can share for fun in there. But the technicalities of things, those are very specific. And I think that's where it's important to pay attention when you are doing this type of work, when you're working in your business, whether you're abroad or you are in the United States. The fine print does matter. And that's where Bedrock Business Builders overall, we make that a lot easy or more simplistic for people, because we're reading the fine print for you.
Yes, and that's also why it's important to save the chat at the end. Okay, definitely save the chat. Like I said, the IRS is out of control. Let me tell you something about the IRS. My aunt worked at the IRS. I have a very good friend, my cousin Vinny. He's actually a cousin through marriage. He has a very close friend that was a high up at the IRS. And he recently told me, he said, it's even worse than I think. And I think it's pretty bad. We had to, I have stories, but my cousin Vinny, we couldn't file his return because the IRS insisted that his PIN number was wrong. And he knows, and I know that it's not wrong because he had the document to prove it. So we had to file a paper return, and it was a big return. And I told him, I said, it might take them years to process this. And, he's due a refund, but there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do because COVID exposed the cracks in the IRS's system. Now, people have known this for years, that they are underfunded. Their computer systems are way outdated. I believe that they've been hacked because some of the stuff that's been coming out are machine driven. They should be automatic. There's a process to their letters. They were skipping over letters. They were sending people notice of intent to levy, which is the last letter you get in the series of 3. You're supposed to get the first letter, the second letter, and then you get a notice of intent to levy. So then, a couple of our clients got them. I thought it was a coincidence. Well, it wasn't, because then the CPA community was sharing that the same thing happened to them. So the IRS is more out of control than before. Also, there are agents that, well, I'll get into that. One of the things my aunt explained to me, she worked in what they call the ACS unit, that unit that you have to call in when you get one of those collection notices. And the problem was, she said that every 12 to 18 months, she got a new boss that was the new manager of the department. And now Susan knows from working in some large organizations that when you get a new manager, they want to put their stamp on that department. So whatever systems they came into, they were like, oh, that's wrong. You're going to do it my way. Well, you can't run a business like that. And the IRS is a business. It's an organization, and they're out of control. Now, when it comes to the training, she had a 6-month training program. So before she could even answer the phone and try to help somebody, because that's what her job was, to help people. It wasn't to collect the taxes. They were people saying, you took my bank account. I got 4 kids to feed. How can we fix this? So some of the stories are heartbreaking. So now I have this picture in my mind of 80,000 people coming to work to an organization that's not equipped to deal with that many people. They only have about 80,000 employees now. So I'm like, who is going to train all these people? So it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. Just so you know, I have the same issues. Everything I'm telling you that you're going to have to do, we have to do. Okay. And like I said, it's not going to get any easier. Just as if you're an accountant, or a business owner, the way that they're conducting audits now are different than they've ever done before. It used to be you made an appointment with the revenue agent. It took time. Time is money. And the audits were limited. Now you just get a letter. You don't meet anybody. You can talk to them on the phone, but they just want you to fax everything. And I'm not saying fax 1 month's worth of records. They want you to fax everything. It's easy. It's going to be easy for these people. They can be handling 5 times more audits than they used to, because most of it is going to be machine driven. We offer solutions to all of these issues. Everything we're talking about, we're not just talking about. We figured out how to head it off. And a big part of that is our what would I say? This is a unique program designed specifically for small business owners. It's the Bedrock Cfo Package. There's nothing else like it. You saw our team. Anybody that's worked with our team knows how we work. I've had the pleasure of handing over all of my family members. If you've ever had to do business with your family, you know how hard it is. And I'm getting like, Luz won't leave me alone. She's asking me for this information. What, can you do anything about it? I said, no, she's my boss. So, we have a team that won't relent, and it's all to help you, the business owner. So they realize that, so this goes out to anybody that wants to start their own accounting business. No client has ever fired an accountant because we were contacting them too much. Now, I've had girlfriends break up with me because I was texting them too much. Hey, Ray, how are you? Good to see you. So, but an accountant never got fired or got into a problem with the client because they said, you're paying too much attention to me. That never happened. And if somebody wanted to, not do business with us because we were paying too much attention to them, well, then we're not a good fit. The only reason why we're paying so much attention to them, maybe because they're not following our direction. Okay. It's our clients they have no choice in the matter. They have to be an active participant in the process. So now we could get on to the real meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about, the IRS mission. Because what people don't realize is the IRS is the largest collection agency in the world. Okay. Their mission, and every business should have a mission, and you would have to dig deep into the IRS's website, but this is all public information. Their mission is to enforce the tax laws and collect the taxes from everyone. Okay. So what happens with the business that has issues? They're looking for, okay, where can we improve? Well, guess where they're trying to improve? They're like, where can we squeeze more money out of people that aren't paying? That's who the IRS is. Now, that's the organization. The people at the IRS are not evil. I feel for them. Most of, 99.9% of the people that I've worked with at the IRS, I feel for them because I know what kind of job they have. I know how tough it is, because they work for the IRS. And, I think most of them are looking forward to when they can retire, because it's not like a happy job. Oh, let me see who I could help. Some of them look at it as a chance to actually help people. And those people are a godsend, because that's what, I believe every government agency should be out there. Their mission should be to serve businesses, not to collect them. That should be part of their mission. Okay, but their real mission should be to serve the small business community, to make it easier for us to make money so that then we owe taxes. What they do, in effect, is they make it more difficult, more expensive, and it's counterproductive. What they believe is the taxpayer role is to understand and meet his or her tax obligations. Well, if they didn't make it so damn complicated, maybe that would happen. But out of over 30 million businesses, 27 million are still doing business as sole proprietors. And if you follow me, you can follow me on my YouTube channel. I talk about this. I wrote a book about how bad it is to be a sole proprietor. It's the worst way to do business. Well, I had to look at that and say, why are tens of millions of people doing business under the wrong business structure? And my conclusion is that it's so complicated. When somebody's confused, they don't make a decision. You get conflicting information from the IRS, from the Small Business Administration, from accountants. It's confusing. It is confusing. So the IRS, their role, like I said, is that they are looking at the minority, because for the majority of people are in compliance. They might not be paying all of their taxes because it's so confusing. I can't stress this enough. It's confusing for people that have been doing this for decades. Successful business owners, they rely on their accountants to be on top of this stuff. And I'm just telling you, to be transparent, it's almost impossible for accountants to be on top of everything. We specialize in working with people that don't normally hire accountants. Okay, that's our sweet spot. Okay, because there's a big need for it, and we solve the problem. We solve the problem by making it simple. Now, believe it or not, every taxpayer has a Bill of Rights. They need to be aware of this because unfortunately, for how many good people are working at the IRS, you still get a bad apple. And what I've seen is that the bad apples let the power get to their heads. Okay, and this is one of your defenses. You have the right to be informed. When those taxpayers got the notice of intent to levy, they were not informed. They didn't even know they had a problem. Quality service. Well, how are you going to get quality service if they don't even pick up the phone? Pay no more than the correct amount. I had 2 audits last year that we successfully handled where the IRS said deductions are not for business. Now I'm talking about a trucking company that had over $250,000 in wages. And the agent said, well, that wasn't for business. It was, what was it, for a hobby? She just paid those people because she liked them. So we were able to get them to reverse the entire audit. That agent was no longer working there. And I think that there was a reason for that. People don't know you can challenge the IRS. I've challenged the IRS for decades once I realized how the IRS works. So just because the IRS says something does not mean that they're right. Like I said, I had a bunch of examples last month where people the IRS said, oh, we don't like this deduction. They went through the appeals process all the way to tax court, and the IRS lost. Well, if the IRS was always right, there wouldn't be no need for a tax court, and they would always win. They don't always win, okay? You have the right to appeal in an independent forum. They actually have a taxpayer advocate. Okay, I believe they can do a better job, but if you're in a position where you can't find an accountant, you can't afford a tax man or a woman or an enrolled agent, you can go to the I lost my train of thought now. What is it? The taxpayer advocate, and they're supposed to be independent from the IRS. You could also call your congressman. Believe it or not, my aunt who worked at the IRS got her refund delayed, okay, which delayed her stimulus payment, it delayed her tax. There was no logical reason other than the fact that the IRS could not deal with COVID. So she called her congressman and she got action. This says finally, it should say finality. You have the right to say, you know what, enough is enough. I've had audits where the auditors wanted to keep going and keep asking questions until finally you could say, you know what, I'm not getting anymore. Just file your report so I can appeal it. You have a right to privacy. A lot of what we do in Bedrock now is to protect our clients' privacy. We use a secure portal. It's a pain in the neck, but it's required. It's required because we have people's tax information. And I'm going to show you some of the tax scams have a lot to do with people stealing people's refunds, their stimulus payments. You also have the right to confidentiality. An auditor cannot go around saying, oh, I just audited Donald Trump. Okay, you're not allowed to do that. Now, this is a big one. Representation. In those 2 audits that I mentioned, where the agents just flat out said, oh, you're not entitled to these deductions because they're not business related. They didn't tell them or suggest even that they had a right to hire an accountant or an attorney. They just did the audit and disallowed everything. Now, I believe that that was a rogue agent, and I think that he lost his job. There was a reason why he wasn't available. And, they need to, now that case almost got to the point where our client could not even appeal anymore. she was a month away from being able to file a petition with the tax court. And my defense of her was, okay, if you're not going to reverse the whole thing, we're going to go to tax court, and I want to see what the judge says about your behavior. Okay. And number 10 is they have to be fair and just. Sometimes they're not. Okay. 99.9% of the time they are. But I have a fear that when they hire these 80,000 people, they're not going to be trained properly. And, you know, we'll see what happens. Okay. One of the defenses that you could take right now is to access your own tax records. People could owe money and they don't even know it. Okay. You could go to get a mortgage and find out that there's a lien on your house. Okay. There's problems with the post office too, folks. You know, the IRS isn't sending you an email and calling you on the phone to tell you, hey, you owe us money. It's going to be in your account. So I recommend everybody go in, set up your own account. I've heard, like everything else, there's usually technical problems. What I would say to that is just be persistent. Okay, now when you go in there, you can see just about everything, your stimulus payments, you know, but most important, you want to make sure that all of your records are up to date. Another thing I found is just because you filed a return doesn't mean that they have it. Okay, something could have went wrong. It could have got lost in the mail. And again, they might be looking for something, and because there's flaws in the system, you might not even know about it. So let me share some of these common issues that people run into. Now, one of them, my aunt she didn't fall for it, but I'll tell you the story. What they do is they call up, they say they're from the IRS, you owe $3,000, and if you don't pay, you know, your spouse is going to be arrested when they come home from work. That's what they did. They did it to another client of mine, and he called me. He said, you know, Joe, my wife is freaking out. She just got a call from the IRS saying I made a mistake on your return, and I'm going to get arrested when I go home. So, you know, I thought that was pretty funny, but it's not funny because it scared his wife. What they wanted her to do was go and get a prepaid debit card or something, you know, that. And unfortunately, they were successful with a lot of people. That particular scam was actually being run. The guy had a huge network of people all over the world, and eventually he got caught. But I could imagine how many people they sent to the hospital. Now, my aunt got the call. Now, she vetted her. She's like, oh, what's your ID number? Because they have to give you, the IRS will call you on occasion. It's rare, but when they call you, they have to give you their ID number. When you call them, the first thing they do is give you their ID number. That's a requirement. Okay. When my aunt got called, she called me and she was like, just to be sure, could you have made a mistake on my return? And I said, yeah, I could have made a mistake, but you should know better. This is a scam. And she just wanted to be, you know, she wanted to be put at ease. So here's a couple of and again, there's not enough time to go into this, but there are a lot of scams, and what they're doing is they're trying to get your refund before you get it. If they have your social security number, it's not that difficult to file a return, believe it or not, and have the refund sent to them. Okay. That's why the IRS has these PINs, their personal identification numbers. You can now, usually when you move, the IRS will automatically send you a PIN. Now, my cousin Vinny was upset. I was upset, but I said, you know what? It's just like when you got to do a password and you forget your password. Yeah, it's a pain, but they're doing it to protect you. Another scam, believe it or not, is people apply for unemployment. This happened to my uncle again. I don't know. I think they're targeting my aunt and uncle for some reason. But what they do is they actually apply for unemployment under your tax ID number. And some of these people are successful. And I always said, some of the scams that they come up with, if they just put their time and effort into a legitimate business, they might be successful. Elizabeth, do we have any questions? I can take a short break and answer questions if they have.
I don't have any questions right now. What we're doing currently is I shared the Bedrock Business Builders YouTube link, and I said that the 8th subscriber will get a gift. So people are telling me that they have subscribed, and then I'm messaging them and telling them that they won gifts and to send me their email address, and I'm doing it in the moment. So if anybody has questions, please ask questions as well. I know we're playing other games in there, and I'm going to ask you some questions directly, like what is the hardest thing for you to do in your business, or what's the hardest thing for you to understand about the IRS. Also, the link right here, Susan asked me to share it, is how you access your online account with the IRS. So that link is right there too. But keep going, Joe. I like
Okay.
all the information.
Yes, I know you love this stuff. You're going to be doing research. So I think I've explained a couple of these things. The IRS will not email you. So if you get an email or a text from the IRS, do not click it. Okay. Like I said, if you get a phone call from the IRS, if they haven't given you their ID number, it's not from the IRS. If they do give you an ID number, keep it. Again, if you get an email requesting W-2 info, what they're doing is they're looking for your personal information. Okay, so tax preparers, believe it or not, I got a whole email about scams against tax preparers. They do the same thing to us. They would love to get into my database because listen, I got tax ID numbers, addresses, birth. That's why we have everything in a secure server. Okay. What else? Okay, this one, unfortunately, I've had the, I was going to say pleasure of working for some criminal tax preparers. I didn't know they were criminals before I went to work for them. But believe it or not, a lot of scams originate from bogus tax preparers. Now, these are not CPAs, they're not enrolled agents. Usually, I can't say that, they never do it. But, one telltale sign is if you get a tax preparer that won't sign your return, there's a reason why they won't sign your return. They're called ghost preparers. They don't want the IRS to catch on to them. If a tax preparer, promises you a big refund, we can't do that. I can't promise anybody a refund. What if they have to pay? So if somebody's guaranteeing you something that sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Okay. IRS notices. I started doing a whole series on the YouTube channel about IRS notices. I'm going to go into more of them. And let me mention, if you put your email in here, I have a template to get penalties removed, because a lot of times there's what they call reasonable cause to have penalties and interest removed. One of them is if you relied on an accountant for advice and or whatever, and you got penalized. Now, believe it or not, I've blamed myself a number of times when it was appropriate. A couple of times I filed returns electronically, got stuck in the system. I know my client got penalized. And I said, listen, I'm the CPA. I made a mistake. It's not on them. And I have been successful 100% of the time. I've never gotten any kind of penalty notice. I've never gotten a letter from the IRS. So, it's all on the up and up. But if you want a copy of the template, I'd be happy to share it with you. These notices, so every notice has a code at the top. And so you want to know, is it under reporting? So what this is like, let's say you forgot that you work for somebody and you didn't report a 1099. That's a bad one. That's a bad one, because what the IRS does is they just say, oh, you got to pay tax on the entire thing, whatever it is. If it's 50,000, but if you get a 1099, you're usually entitled to some tax write-offs, some business write-offs. So if you get a notice like this, usually what they're saying is, hey, we got information that you made money that you didn't report, but there's usually a comeback. Sometimes you did report it, you might have reported it in the wrong place. Maybe it's combined with something else. So you got to remember, these notices are all machine driven. Okay. And like I said before, just because the IRS says something does not mean that they're right. If they make a mistake, they're going to make it in their favor. So you don't get a notice saying, hey, your return doesn't match what we had. Can you explain that? No, you get a notice. You get a notice saying to pay them. And then it's your job to not pay them unless you actually owe the money. Okay. Here's some other reasons. Like I said, you have a balance due. So a balance due is not the same as the underreporting program. The underreporting program is a special program where they're actually matching third-party information with what you reported on your return. A balance due is just you filed a return and you just didn't pay the taxes. Okay. They're going to send you, I've never seen them, on occasion, they'll send you a letter saying, hey, we think we owe you more money. They will send, and they're not going to actually send you a letter. Well, they will send you a letter saying that they adjusted your refund, but the first thing they're going to do is they're going to reduce your refund. So if you get less than what you're expecting, you're going to get a letter. Again, if they have a question, if they want you to verify identity, they change your return. A lot of these are the same, but they come under different headings. They will notify you. It was funny because last year I filed an amended return for somebody, and also I answered a couple of notices, and we're waiting 3 months, 4 months to get, and then finally we get a letter saying, we need another 6 months to answer your letter. The problem was on both of them was that we were waiting for refunds. So that's another thing that killed me about COVID was, they delayed all the refunds, but they did not delay the balance due notices. Now, if you owe the IRS money, you have protection. They can't just go and levy your account. They got to give you notice. That's one of your rights. But if you do owe money, there might be a chance that you don't owe money or you owe less. That's why you got to go to a professional. If you actually owe the money and you have no defense, you have two options. You can either make an installment agreement or you can do an offer and compromise. We got a new client yesterday. He told me he's on a fixed income. The guy is living on Social Security and he's paying the IRS $250 a month against a $20,000 bill. We're going to do an offer and compromise for him. He qualifies. I think he was happy that he made the call because we could offer them $250. And that's a definite option for him because he fits the description. Okay, if you're being audited, do not represent yourself. Okay, that is a mistake. Just like if you ever get arrested, you don't want to defend yourself. You want to have representation. You want to put a barrier between you and the IRS. Okay, no matter how much it's going to cost you, because very few people will handle an audit for free. Sometimes, I've gotten stuff that was a clear-cut case of the IRS just being bullies, and I would do it. I do pro bono once in a while if it's called for. So if you are being audited, that does not mean you're going to owe them money. I have a friend, Elizabeth knows this. He's given us testimonials. I've interviewed him because he was my first tax audit. I wasn't certified. He was a sole proprietor, and I handled his audit with him, and the IRS actually owed him money when we were done. So that's a true story. That's a true story. So how do you choose a good tax preparer? The best way is you come to Bedrock Business Builders and you fill out a form. That's a little bit of a joke, but I believe I'm a good preparer. I think Ray Cousins and Susan would attest to that. If I'm not, they would have fired me already. Thank you, Ray. You're a good client no matter what my team says. I stick up for you. And Susan, I'm proud of you. You are following you're one of those clients we never hear from. I never hear about because you're following the direction. But the best way, I believe, is ask somebody that you know, somebody that's not your uncle. Okay, ask somebody that has a business. If you're a business owner, ask a few people, interview them. Okay, make sure that they have experience. Unfortunately, a lot of people do something like they take a course and they think they can do taxes. No, you got to work 5 to 10 years under the direction of a tax preparer before you have enough experience. And even then, we still come into situations that we never saw before because it's complicated and things are always changing. So what I do is I'm active in a bunch of tax preparer groups, and you don't have to hire a CPA. One of the myths is that CPAs do taxes. A lot of CPAs do not do taxes. Just because you're a CPA, you may do taxes, and for me, that was always my focus. But to become a CPA, you have to have years of experience doing audits. Now, certified financial audits have nothing at all to do with taxes. So I could have become a CPA and not know anything about taxes. So just be careful. Credentials, you can hire an enrolled agent. Enrolled agents specialize in taxes. A lot of times they're more qualified than a CPA, believe it or not, because they don't study auditing and accounting. They just study taxes. There are tax attorneys. Okay. Now, just because somebody's an attorney and they call themselves a tax attorney, there is no designation to be a tax attorney. Anybody could call themselves a tax attorney. So be leery. And if you need a tax attorney, it's probably because you have some problem going on. and you need that attorney-client privilege. Also, you could check credentials. Now, Elizabeth, you said, and I wasn't even aware of this, you can actually go on the IRS website to make sure that somebody is qualified, has gone through the licensing process, and not everybody can transmit tax returns to the IRS. You have to answer a questionnaire. You can owe prior taxes. So you could check their credentials. Also, you could go to your state licensing department and check to see if a CPA or a licensed accountant has any complaints against them. Make sure that their license is in good standing. Another thing you could do is make sure that they're responsive. You know, right now, if you're trying to hire an accountant, most of them aren't even answering their phone. Okay, they're not doing workshops like we are. They're sitting at their desk trying to handle, you know, the clients that they have. Okay, make sure that they're organized. If they have an office, go in there. If they have tax returns and papers all over the place, I don't think that they're, you know, what you see on the outside is what's on the inside. Okay, if their team, if they have a team that you walk in there and they're all miserable, if they answer the phone like, you know, they're doing you a favor and, you know, you have to respect them, that's a problem. So some of this is just common sense, but I think there's a serious lack of good tax preparers out there. So don't settle. If you're looking for an accountant now, I would say, you know, put yourself on extension if you can, and do your due diligence. Okay, so now that's basically the end. Oh, I do have one other thing, and it has to do with something I came across the other day. One of our team members is doing royalties for a book publisher. And they had a question where they had a foreigner. I think he came from a country called Canada. I'm not familiar with that. And they have no ties at all to the United States. So what I learned is that there is a form that you have to, if you're a business owner and you're doing business with somebody outside of the United States, there is a form called the W-8-BEN. Okay, now that is for what they call withholding agents. Who's a withholding agent? I'm a withholding agent. Some of my team is in the Philippines. Well, they're not too happy that now they got to fill out a form for us, because what the form does is it certifies that they are not subject to US taxes. I have no way of verifying if they have to file US-based tax returns. And there could be a lot of reasons why they do. They could be citizens. I don't know if they're not citizens. They could spend more than 90 days in the United States and earn money here. Okay. Now, if I don't get that form and it turns out that they do have to file a return, I'm going to be subject to paying 30% in taxes to the IRS, because there's a presumption of guilt, if you want to call it that. If you don't know and you don't get that form, you're required to withhold 30%. Now, if you're hiring somebody that is not from the United States, I mean, I've hired people from Bangladesh, from Cambodia, from India, but I did it all through Upworks. Upworks is the withholding agent. Okay, so you got to be careful. Now, this is something, it's related to the 1099 issue. Okay, and I didn't really cover anything about the 1099 issue, but I'm going to cover it now. Millions of people are going to be issued 1099s in 2022 for the first time. My advice is that if you're a business owner and you're paying anybody, I don't care if it's a corporation, an individual, an LLC, you ask them for a W-9 form. Okay, all of our clients in 2022 are going to be issuing Bedrock Business Builders a 1099. Why? Because if you're doing business in the United States and you don't issue anyone a 1099, I believe that the IRS is going to be looking at you. And one of those 80,000 agents might be sending you a letter saying, hey, how did you have 50,000 in professional fees? You hired a web designer, you have a coach, and you didn't file any 1099s. So if you want to protect yourself, you file those 1099s. And if the people you're doing business with are giving you a hard time, then you need to not do business with them. Now, the W-8 ABN, BEN is directly related to that because, again, if I have something on my return that shows that I'm outsourcing, they're going to say, now you don't file the W-8 BEN with the IRS, but you need to have it in your files, just like you need to have the W-9 forms and the W-4 forms if you have an employee. What that does is it protects you. If the foreigner is certifying that they don't owe taxes, it's not on you anymore. So all you got to do, it's a very simple form. Those were the forms that I attached in the chat. A couple of them were just images. I attached those by mistake, but also I attached, now that's for countries that have a treaty with the US. So in publication 901 is a list of all the countries that have a treaty. I think most of them, I mean, China's in there, Russia, the Philippines are in there. I believe Canada's in there, Ray. So you don't have anything to worry about. And that's basically the presentation. Now, I'm going to tell you briefly how our CFO program can help you take control of your finances. First of all, we're going to look at all your numbers. Whatever way you're doing business, we're going to ask for the information. We're going to keep asking for the information until either you give it to us or you give it to us. We're not going to give up. Okay. So if you're a client of ours, we're going to keep asking you by any means necessary. Skype, Facebook Messenger, text. Now we can text from Skype. So if you're a client of ours, Ray, and you're not giving us your information, you will be getting a call from Luz, okay? Or Corrine, or one of our team members. We're going to analyze that information. We're going to ask you questions like, why do you have so many credit cards? Okay, things like that. Like things like Venmo, that, you know, a lot of times it just says Venmo. It doesn't say what you bought, whether you paid somebody. So we're going to ask you for that info. So having that information is powerful, not for us, it's powerful for you, because what happens, so I'll tell you what happened with us. I had to give our bookkeeping because I was doing Bedrock's bookkeeping until I realized, I said, maybe I should follow my own advice. And that's don't be your own bookkeeper. There's a story behind that. My mother was doing it and she decided to retire. She left me all alone and I gave it to Tisha. That was a mistake because Tisha started asking me questions. And I could feel for our clients because I'm like, why are you asking me all these questions? But the truth is, I found a lot of money that I was wasting. Software that I bought that I wasn't using anymore. I got, you know, I had a lot of credit cards that I didn't need. I condensed that. So all of it really helped me. It was a little bit painful, but it's like going to the dentist. You know, you don't want to go, but then you're glad that you went, because at the end they give you some candy if you go to the right dentist. like I said, the main features is, we're always looking at your taxes. The name of the game is tax minimization, cash flow. And to do that, you need to keep your books up to date. And it's really you getting your own accounting department. The benefits is we're going to try to protect you. Like I say, a lot of times we're trying to protect you from you, just like my team protects me from me. Okay, we don't want you to get audited. We're going to tell you if you're at risk, and those other things I've already talked about. Here's how we got here. It was all about bookkeeping, tax preparation, entity creation, and tax problems resolutions. That we still do that until the IRS decided that they were going to attack. Now what we do that with the idea that we want to keep you protected. We don't want to raise any red flags. What we do is, I call it hiding in plain sight. It was organized, it was designed specifically, like I said, for small businesses that don't normally hire accountants. Now, you've met our team. I want to thank Elizabeth. She's somebody I can't fire because I never hired her. She actually went to our first mastermind meeting and I didn't even show up. She was the only one that showed up. So I give a shout out to Elizabeth. You're a special person. I really appreciate your help. If I were you, I would have quit a long time ago. So, but you're tenacious, just like everybody else is on our team. We all share, the same types of qualities. We have core beliefs. And believe it or not, our CFO program starts at only $57 a month. We made it that price because of the market, because I know that people do not hire an accountant because they think that they can't afford it. Well, most people spend more than $57 at Starbucks. Okay. Also, if you sign up, and I don't know, Elizabeth makes the rules now. I don't know when you got to sign up, but you will get 3 months free. There's a lot of reasons why you should be a CFO client. I think I covered most of them. It's secure. We organize everything. Most important is we have fun. Somebody I met introduced me to one of her clients, and she's like, Joe runs the only fun accounting business I've ever seen. And that's why we have a CFO. Extra bonus. Okay, so I'm gonna also offer you my S-Corp, amazing itty bitty S-Corp book for anybody that wants it. Elizabeth will take care of that because that's what she does. She takes care of things. Now, this will explain everything that you want to know about S-Corps, but we're afraid to ask. And if you want to connect with me, it's easy. You just go to timewithjoe.com. And also what we don't have in here is if you want to join our mastermind, it's free. We meet every Friday at 11:30 a.m. We play games, we have fun, and we learn. We learn from each other. And that is just Mastermind with Joe. So that's my story. I'm sticking with it. Thank you. And
All right, Joe, that was a ton of information. I don't know if we've all retained all of it or not. You definitely got into some specifics about what the IRS does, specifically our Bill of Rights. I put all those links in the chat. I hope you're following along with it. The other thing that we're going to do is we have a couple minutes, Joe. We have minutes for questions. We have a couple minutes for Jeopardy, and Jeopardy goes over some of the questions that were asked and answers. And I'm going to say to you that I don't have the answers. You guys have the answers. We're going to rapidly play so long as I can pull it up. This is what we do on our Friday masterminds. We also ask burning business questions. So now is the time. If you want to show your camera, if you want to unmute yourself, if you want to do any of that, then have at it. I'm going to actually make it so we are not all spotlighted anymore, right? I'm removing the spotlights. Raymond, thank you for being in the spotlight with us. I appreciate that. It was fun to have you as part of the team. I'm going to make it so we've got our gallery view. Look, we still have 62 people here, okay? I hope that you took advantage of getting, what are some of the things we shared? We shared how to onboard clients, like keeping track of your leads. We shared how to budget and different budgeting tool. We also shared, I gave a corporations outline that I did when I was in law school. And then if you go to my profile, I've got other things like a tax law outline and such like that. I also emailed people some of the free copies of Joe's book if you sent that to me and you subscribe to the YouTube channel. The other thing I'm going to say to you is that you can become an affiliate of Bedrock. Not only can you become a client, but even if you're not a client at this moment, but you need a product or a service to sell, right? And maybe you like bookkeeping, but you don't want to do all of the bookkeeping. Well, Bedrock Business Builders can be your back end, and that's where we give 15% of the net sale price for a year for the client. There's lots of stipulations within our terms of service, but that's where you can check that out. There is a link for that. I'm going to share my screen to make it so I'm sharing the board. Does everybody remember how to raise your hands with the reactions? Right? We can raise our hands, we can lower our hands, we can heart things. And if you want to keep yourself unmuted and yell out answers, you can do that, okay? And if you get one right, you can tell us where we're going to go on the board. So our topics for today are reconcile, debt, to the moon money, not so funny, and make money. All right? Because we want to do all of those things. I want to make sure I'm lowering my hand. Lady Rose, please, you have raised your hand. Do you have a question you want to ask real quick?
No, I'm just figuring out how to lower my hand. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so.
Oh, you're okay. You want to pick a topic and a number? Lady Rose, you muted yourself. All right. Anybody else want to?
I'll pick one. Not so funny for 100.
Oh, okay, everybody. I'm going to keep in mind, I am not really a comedian. What do you call an accountant with an opinion? All right. I want to say that within Bedrock Business Builders, when we are doing everyone's accounting and reconciling accounts and things like that, we often like to say that it is a judgment-free zone. We do not care what you are spending money on. We are not thinking about it too hard. We are looking at so many purchases that we can't really have an opinion about this. But do you know who does have an opinion? An auditor. Ba-da-bum. See, as long as I'm making Joe laugh, I feel like I'm doing my job. I'm not going to get fired, even though he cannot fire me. Now, anybody else have any burning business questions? No burning business questions. Does anybody want to pick a topic and a number?
As an expert on debt, I would like to pick debt for 300.
All right. What are some benefits to using credit cards?
Tracking.
I don't know about points. Yeah, see, Joe's got it. We get points for using our credit cards.
You use American Express, you get insurance when you use a rental car.
Now, are credit cards, Joe, I got a question for you. Are credit cards easier to reconcile or are they harder to reconcile for a business?
I don't know. I don't do that anymore. You have to ask one of our team members.
All right, so we're gonna have to come back to that. The other thing with credit cards is essentially when you pay for something with a credit card, you're actually asking for a loan. And that money that's being put out, that's not necessarily considered income because it's a loan, right?
Right.
But then if the money is forgiven because you don't pay your credit cards, now that's considered income. But that gets way in depth. And this is where I said I didn't really have the answers. So where are we going on the board? Susan, give me a
Oh, to the moon money for 300.
300. All right. How are stocks valued in the market?
By how much they sell for.
Exactly. Stocks, like if you're doing things on Forex or the New York Stock Exchange or any of that type of stuff, they are valued based on what people are willing to pay for them. Now, at one point, people used to try and have a definitive value to every company, right? And from that value, that's what they would pay for a specific stock. But now, the way that the stock market works is there's not necessarily a specific value for a company. Instead, it has a lot to do with people's perception on how much the company is worth. And that is where the stock market does more it's it's not as set in stone. So that's where it's to the moon money. You can't really give a definitive answer for that.
Based on fear and greed.
Ooh, there we go, Raymond. Now, any of the participants, there's 59 other people in the room, not just Raymond, Susan, Joe, and myself. Yell out a category, a number, something you want to learn about.
Reconcile for 200.
There we go. What is the tax difference? What is the tax difference between a LLC and an S Corp or C Corp?
Flow through.
That is correct, Raymond. When you are an LLC, your tax goes right through you. When you are an S Corp or a C Corp, that is not necessarily the same.
Actually, so I think I can answer this.
Thank goodness, Joe. Please save me
So
from myself.
so LLC does not have a tax category, and the IRS does not recognize an LLC. It's what they call a disregarded entity. So you're what they call a default entity, which if you're a single member, you're still classified as a sole proprietor. And if you have more than one member, you're classified as a partnership. Both entities give you no protection from the IRS. You got to pay Social Security tax on the net profit, and you have no control over how you pay yourself. You can, the good thing is you can elect to be treated as a corporation, and then you can elect to be taxed as an S Corp. Now, a corporation, a C Corp, pays its own taxes. And then if the owner wants to take a dividend, they'll also pay taxes at the individual level, which means that it's double taxation. The benefit of being an S Corp is there's no corporate level tax. So the income or loss just flows through to the owners. So I'm glad I got that right.
Thank goodness, Joe. Woot woot. That was a very detailed answer, and I appreciate that. So where are we going on the board?
Let's do make money for 300.
Where is the best place to look for U.S. grants?
What is Bedrock Business Builders?
That is a good answer, Raymond, is that we often share different places where you can get grants. We talk about it often during the Friday Mastermind. We do have a journal that will talk about finance and grants and things like that from the articles that we all write as a team. But then also just grants.gov. is a good place to look for different things, but you've got to be real careful on what you're searching.
Jose, Lady Rose is saying reconcile 100, and Jose or Josie, I'm sorry, said debt. Oh, he was asking for debt for 200.
All right, so we're gonna go to reconcile for 100. Shout out 5 business expenses. Anybody and everybody.
Software.
Overnight
Bookkeeping.
travel.
Legal fees.
Bookkeeping, legal fees, software, that's 3.
Overnight travel.
Transportation expenses.
Uh-huh.
Communication.
Yeah, communication.
Salaries.
Salary
Salaries, yeah.
employees.
Advertising and marketing.
What is professional representation?
Marvelous. So we're gonna go to debt for 200. Is it better to take out a loan for a new business, a car, or a house? Why?
If you pay it back right, it improves your credit.
All right. That
What
would
it-
be for a loan for any of those 3.
What is a house?
Why is it better to buy a house instead of a business or a car, Raymond?
It's got to do with getting tax relief on the interest.
Okay, that's a cool reason. Any other? I told you I don't have the right answer. You guys have the right answer, and you're going to tell me why for this one.
So we are getting answers in the chat, a new business, because you can buy a house out of your profit. So that's a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good answer.
I definitely like that answer.
But you got to be careful with that, because I've seen too many people borrow money and not make money. You got to make sure you have a viable business first.
Mm. And how do you make sure a business is viable, Joe?
Well, you
What
need
is
2
market
things.
research validation?
You need sales and you need cash flow.
There we go. Houses. Okay.
Make money 200.
Thank you. You got to save me from myself, okay, everybody? Keep me going. What is your highest value activity in your business?
Sales.
All right, Susan, she's making sales. That's her highest value activity.
Self-improvement.
Joe, self-improvement. That's his highest value activity. For me, it's the work that I do for clients each day. So then I make sure that I'm still getting paid for the work that I'm doing. I've got to do work each day.
Oh, I text message people that owe us money.
Zoe.
That's a good one too. Anybody else in the room? We've got 56 people. What's your highest value activity? What do you make the most money doing?
What is consulting?
There we
Yeah,
go, Raymond.
interacting with customers. Yes.
There you go. Interacting with customers. Where are we going on the board?
To the moon 200.
How does universal life insurance invest your money?
What is in the market?
They invest in stocks.
They do. And they cap what you can make from the market. They themselves can make an unlimited amount, but within your investment, it's capped. And that's one of the things that protects you within universal life insurance. And there's a whole bunch of other different things about universal life insurance that can be a benefit to you. If you want to learn more about that, then Raymond knows a lot about it and Joe knows a lot about it.
Yeah, Raymond knows more than me about that stuff.
Well, thank goodness.
I
Raymond, maybe you
think
should.
When
I
they
think,
come and ask me, I say, I know nothing. I know nothing.
Oh my goodness. All right. Marcel Morales, where we going? What you doing?
I think the life insurance mostly invest their money in the trust fund. In the trust fund.
So Jose Josie is saying to the moon for 100.
Okay. Name some ways people plan for retirement. So
What is a 401k?
that's one way you can plan for retirement.
What is an IRA?
IRAs. Life
What is under the
insurance.
mattress?
Ooh, under the mattress, one of my favorite ways.
What are precious metals?
What is real estate?
Real estate, true. Some people plan for retirement by, say you've amassed lots and lots and lots of money and you have children, right? Well, instead of waiting until you pass to bequeath that money because it's subject to higher taxes, what individuals will start doing is they make in-life gifts. And they start to make these in-life gifts to make it so not only are people getting the benefits of their wealth while they are alive, they are also making it so their income or their amount of money that they have is decreased. And if they later on in life need to take advantage of the US health insurance system or the state health insurance system, then it's easier for them to do that. But when you do Medicaid or Medicare, that type of thing, they do look 10 years back. So they try and get your assets in that situation. But that's technical. This is where on a Friday mastermind, we'll talk more about that type of stuff. So where are we going on the board?
Debt
Reconcile
100.
300.
Debt 100, please.
Debt for 100 is next. Okay. Why did the business owner cross the road to make a payment?
The bank was on the other side.
To claim the payment under travel expenses.
Oh, God, that wasn't funny.
No, it has to be overnight. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that one.
All right. The board was made by Canva. Canva is a great way to make it so you are creating graphics and different things for social media. Debt. Is debt loans considered taxable income? Look, even when you use Canva, you can edit in the moment.
I'm so glad. That was getting me nervous.
Debt
What is
loans are
no?
Only if you don't pay them and they're forgiven.
unless forgiven.
Yeah, a debt or a loan is not taxable income, but if it's forgiven, then it does become taxable income. So like you can, in the United States, people often get credit cards and their minimum balance or not their minimum, their maximum for the credit card is $300 or $1,000 or $3,000. Now this is people who have bad credit. So they will utilize that credit, right? And then they won't pay it back. And in 2 or 3 years after the person hasn't paid it, do you know what these companies do? They use it as a tax loss or a tax write-off for them, the company itself. They forgive the loan or they forgive the debt to the individual, and then it's actually considered taxable income to that individual. So it becomes a write-off for the financial institution and a taxable event for the individual. Where am I going on the
I have a
board?
burning business question.
Thank the heavens, Raymond. What is your burning business question?
So the last time in my life that I needed to do a debt consolidation, I had a discussion with the person that was offering the service. And they convinced me, or they told me that in getting the amounts of the debts reduced, there was a way to wriggle out of getting taxed on that debt reduction. Were they scamming me, or were they, is that legit?
No, there are some exceptions. Like if it's for your principal residence. So there's actually a form for that. If you, I forget what form it is. But
Okay,
one of our-
I will book a time with you, because that was for my personal residence, so I need to
Yeah,
take
so
advantage of that.
what they want you to do is reduce your basis
Mhm.
in the residence, but that's usually not a problem, because unless you're single and you make over 250 grand on it right now, there's no tax on it anyway.
Cool.
But there are a couple of other exceptions. I just don't recall what they are off the top of my head, but it might not be a scam.
Nice. I only got one more year to go.
Nice.
Sweetness. Let's do reconcile.
Reconcile.
Okay. What forms does a business file when paying independent contractors in the US or abroad? We shared those throughout this workshop.
What is
1099.
a 1099?
And W-9, what is a W-9?
99, W9, W2. What is that form that we talked about when you have an international? Ah, there we
So-
go. Janice got it in the chat. The
Yes.
W8, Ben.
Thank you.
W8.
Mm-hmm.
So just to clarify, you only give a 1099 to somebody that's subject to US taxes. If they're a foreigner and they're not, and you don't file, well, you file the 1099 with the IRS. You don't file a W8 BEN or a W9. That just stays in your file in case the IRS asks you for it. And they will be asking people for it, I guarantee you.
I have another burning business question. So now that I realize that I have to issue some 1099s or file some 1099s, how do I do that?
You contact our team. We're
Ah.
experts at it. You got it. So first, if you were following the workshop, which I know that you are, you ask whoever you're paying to fill out a W-9 form.
Hmm.
So what people don't realize, when they sign those forms, they're attesting under penalty of perjury that they're not subject to backup withholding. Some people, like if they owe the IRS money, the IRS wants you to withhold taxes from them. So they could actually give you their information and you would still be required to withhold money from them. So it protects you and it actually protects them.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Where do I send the bill for that, Ray?
I'll text you my mailing address. I haven't been there in 18 months. Mail's piling up.
All right. Why did the accountant divorce the banker? No.
Irreconcilable differences.
Good job, Joe. They couldn't reconcile their differences.
That's
I
actually
saw
kind
that.
of funny.
How can you make international money transfers? What are some of the servers that do that?
What is the blockchain?
Okay. Some people do it through different coins. That's true. There's one that's called Zoom, XOOM. They will do international money transfers.
Interesting. Your bank.
Your bank does. From one bank to another. People can also do international money transfers with individuals who have PayPal accounts, but that you first have to be able to create a PayPal account.
TransferWise.
Oh, yeah.
TransferWise. Yeah.
Good one. Very good.
Look,
That's
we've
what
got
we use.
more in the chat. There we go. Oh, and we have a question. So that's perfect. Let me go to that. It says, we paid our vendor using a debit card, which is connected to our checking account. Would that still be considered money that needs to be filed for a 1099?
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't matter if you paid them cash, if you paid them with Bitcoin, if there was some kind of economic transaction. Okay, even barter companies. So if you're familiar with barter, it's where there's no money actually transferred, you're just exchanging services. But the barter companies will give you a 1099.
Hmm.
So that was a good question.
So that wraps up our questions. That wraps up our game of Jeopardy. That also makes it so we're at the end of our time. It is 2:55. If anybody has any additional questions, please feel free to ask them right now or forever. I'm not going to say forever hold your peace, because you can always book a time to talk with Joe at www.timewithjoe.com. In the chat, I shared with how you could potentially book a call with Susan, because we all want to get what we want. And why not? She has a calendar. It's open. Take advantage of it, people. All right. She's definitely good at what she does, and she likes to chit chat with individuals. If you want to have time with me, it's timewithelizabeth.com. I'm really good at getting you to say what you offer, and then from there, how are you actually going to like get people to pay for it, right? How are you beta testing what you're doing? And it's all about just having a lot of confidence in what you're doing, and the more you practice that, the better it is. When we do our Friday mastermind, I have you tell us who you are, what you do, how you benefit people, and then usually something pretty interesting or strange or something that we don't know. So it's a good way to practice your speech and to network. Raymond has in the chat how to make a meeting with him. It just use his email. He's a fun one to chit chat with as well. I've done a couple meetings with him. It's always entertaining. And don't forget that if you are here, you are now on Bedrock Business Builder's mailing list. You will get information about upcoming masterminds. You will also get information weekly from Joe about the different things that we're doing and educational things, right? You will get asked to become an affiliate of Bedrock Business Builders, which is a money-making opportunity for you. We have some affiliates who make over $1,000 a month. How they do that, I'm not exactly sure how, because I'm not a seller, but they definitely are. And what else do we have, Joe? Oh, we've got another workshop, or really it's more of an educational presentation that's going to be coming up. It's not, Joe, do we remember the date?
March 4. March 4.
March 4th. You are correct. I don't know who shouted that out, but that is true. And in that workshop, we are going to talk more about actually reconciling accounts and that type of stuff. The process that Bedrock uses and the system that we use to make bookkeeping easier. Joe has, over the last 25, 35, he's been doing this longer than I've been alive. All right. That was my joke in the chat earlier before. And this the system that he uses is phenomenal, and we're going to share a lot of that information. We're also going to make it so if you want to become certified within Bedrock Business Builders to learn this information, you can do that as well. That's has definitely a more in-depth training program. It's going to last for quite some time. You'll hear more about it in the next workshop that we have. This workshop was really to introduce you to Bedrock Business Builder CFO package, to introduce you to the IRS, to tell you how you have rights, how clients have rights, how we have the ability to be proactive with the IRS instead of reactive. And that's what Bedrock Business Builders is doing all the time. We used to have clients that would have boxes and boxes and boxes of receipts and stuff, and we'd have to sit there and look at things that had coffee spilled all over them, right? And figure out what we were going to put on the tax documents as their income and as their expenses. Well, now everything is digitized. And the more innovative a bookkeeper can be about how to look at people's accounts through this digital platform, the easier it is, the better it is, and then the more in alignment you are with the IRS, because that is definitely what the IRS is doing at this point, is they are utilizing the technology that's available to them to track everything that we're doing. So we might as well be more into it than they are. We've got to know a little bit more than what they know, because we've been doing it just a little bit longer than they have. They're only now hiring 86,000 people who are going to start looking at this stuff. Joe has been looking at this stuff for 35 years. So with that, it is 3 o'clock. I'm going to shut this mother down unless anybody's got something revelating to say, an epiphany. Joe, you want to
Yeah.
have a last word?
I just want to say thank you to everyone that attended. Thank you for staying till the end. My secret weapon, I posted it in the chat. It's section 162 of the IRS code, which defines business expenses as ordinary and necessary. So if you have some kind of slant on it, I mean, it could be your dog. We have a client that has a parrot, and we told him to deduct the whatever expenses he has with the parrot, because the parrot is an advertising prop, actually. So that's section 162. Don't try it on your own. But if you do have a question, you know how to reach us. I like to see people at the mastermind group, because when you ask questions in the group, everybody benefits. And also, I want to thank you, Elizabeth, for doing another great job. I could not do this without my team and you, and you make it fun. You're a great CFO. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, everybody. I hope to see you again at the next workshop. I hope to see you on Friday, because that's really where we get to kick off our shoes and have some entertainment, I think. I might even have a music video we could share that has marbles and stuff, but that's neither here nor there. I'm closing this workshop down. I can't keep chit-chatting. Bye, everybody.
Okay. So long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.